today Donald Trump did what he often does when he is trying to change the subject. He picked up the phone and called a reporter and said a lot of things. This morning, the reporter on the other end of the phone was NBC's Kristen Welker. And during that call, Trump said he's pissed off at Vladimir Putin, okay, and that he might impose 25% tariffs on Russian oil if they can't reach a deal with Ukraine. What does that deal look like? That's a whole question. He also threatened to bomb Iran if they don't agree to a nuclear deal. And again, Donald Trump says a lot of things. We've all been following this for a decade now. He likes to sound tough. He likes to put threats out there. And right now, he definitely wants us to be talking about anything other than the scandal that engulfed his administration all week long. Trump also told Kristen, with a two-word "I do," that he still has confidence in his national security team, even after they included a reporter on a group chat that, more importantly, was about imminent war plans. He said the signal controversy was a witch hunt, his favorite go-to phrase. Nothing to see here, of course. The thing is, he's definitely in the minority on that one. Because in a brand new poll I bet you he may have seen from CBS News out this morning, a full 75% of Americans said this issue is serious. Of course it is serious. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. Should we really be surprised about all of this? Because even before he accidentally texted war plans to a reporter, it's safe to say there were some serious, real, legit red flags about Pete Hegseth in particular. I mean, before running the U.S. military, he was a weekend morning show host on Fox News for a decade. No shade to cable weekend news hosts, obviously. Even ones who get a little crazy on New Year's Eve, as you can see there. But it's not exactly a job that prepares you to run the Pentagon as your next step. There were also the countless allegations of Hegseth drinking on the job, both at veterans organizations and at Fox News. The New Yorker reported he once got so drunk that he had to be restrained from getting on a stage at a Louisiana strip club, and that he once drunkenly chanted, "Kill all Muslims," while he was on an official tour for a nonprofit he was in charge of. And then there were the allegations that he ran those two relatively small veterans organizations, much smaller than the Pentagon, into the ground. And of course, these were the allegations. Of course, there were the big concerning allegations about his abuse of women. Now, he denies all of it. But yeah, fair to say, there were some serious red flags about this guy's judgment and about his character, which is why he barely squeaked by in the Senate. J.D. Vance had to cast a tie-breaking vote to get him confirmed. So it was both shocking but entirely unsurprising when this week the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg released everything he saw in that group chat detailing attack plans in Yemen. And it was both shocking, but again, entirely unsurprising when we saw the screenshots of Pete Hegseth, you can see them on the screen there, on an unsecured commercial app with a journalist on the chain, laying out in explicit detail the weaponry and sequencing involved with that attack. And it was, of course, both shocking but entirely unsurprising when even after those screenshots were released, Hegseth looked into the camera and just kept lying about the thing that we had all seen with our very own eyes.
Well, I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
I've got to say, there's one thing Pete Hegseth does seem to be good at. It is denying things forcefully. Like the louder he talks, the more accurate it is or something. He sure does have a lot of experience in that area, too, as I've just outlined. So look, the issue of competence here is obviously a big one, because that guy is at this hour still in charge of our armed forces. But the other issue is the hypocrisy. Because as incompetent as Pete Hegseth is, and clearly he's incompetent, and as meritless as his rise to this job was, he sure does like to talk an awful lot about merit.
The DOD will be merit-based and colorblind. You will be judged based on how good you are at your job. Full stop. That's it.
We will judge you as an individual by your merit.
Focusing just on lethality and meritocracy.
I mean, this is an institution built for meritocracy. Meritocracy.
Will you be judged by how good you are at your job by merit? Doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, he certainly doesn't have much, as we all know. And apparently neither are the people he's surrounding himself with. This week, the Associated Press reported that Hegseth's younger brother, Phil, is currently serving in a key role at the Pentagon as a liaison to the Department of Homeland Security and a senior advisor to his brother. Now, you might be wondering, what kind of experience Phil Hegseth brings to that job? Well, according to his publicly available resume, Phil's past experience primarily includes founding his own podcast company. Good for you. It doesn't make you qualified to be the senior advisor of the Secretary of Defense. And working on social media and podcasts at the Hudson Institute. I mean, again, good for you. Not a qualification for the job you seem to have been given. He also worked alongside his brother when Pete was the CEO of one of those veteran groups that he ran into the ground. In fact, Pete paid his little brother $108,000 to do media relations for that organization. In a statement to the AP, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed Phil Hegseth's job title and said this interagency mission is part of Mr. Hegseth's preview, presumably meaning purview there. So there's that. And guys, I really wish this was like the last embarrassing Hegseth story. I promise you this gives me no real pleasure. I had to tell you about today. But according to the Wall Street Journal, Hegseth also brought his wife, a former Fox News producer, to 2 meetings with foreign military counterparts where sensitive information was discussed. Here she is, you can see her there, entering a bilateral meeting with Hegseth's British counterpart. That's her right there in the blue. Apparently, in that meeting, Hegseth had to explain why the U.S. cut off intelligence sharing with Ukraine, which I think we'd all classify as a pretty sensitive matter. And no, Hegseth's wife is not a Defense Department employee. And when asked if she was even had a low-level security clearance, the Pentagon declined to comment, which, by the way, is a tell. So, yeah, given all the recent evidence and given all the past evidence, it is fair to ask, should the American people trust Pete Hegseth to run the largest military in the world? I think you know the answer. And I really hate to quote myself here, but 2 days after he was confirmed for this job, this is what I had to say. As I said, Pete Hegseth was confirmed. He was sworn in, and he's now in charge of the most powerful military in the history of the world. And it is my sincere hope, it should be everyone's, that he can handle that job. But if he can't, just remember that there was an avalanche of red flags that all but 3 Republican senators overlooked on their way to confirming him. Remember all of it. We will. Told you we'd remember.